So big welcome to another chat within the Ultimate Fertility Guide, which is a place for you to hear more about experts within the fertility world who can help you make the next steps along your journey wherever you are at. And within the guide, there's all sorts of different services provided, whether it's a clinic you're looking for, whether it's the more natural, holistic way that you're going and you're looking for an acupuncturist or a nutritionist, or maybe you've reached a point within your treatment where you are wanting to get your head more around having a sperm donor. And that's where my guest today can help, because I'm now going to welcome Dorian Ransome, who's the National Business Manager for Cryos International. Hi, Dorian. How you doing?
Hi, Natalie. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So the first kind of place to get things started with this is just talking a bit about how Cryos works. Tell me a bit more about the organisation.
Okay, so Cryos is the largest sperm bank in the world. We're based in Denmark. We deliver to over 100 countries now worldwide with donor sperm from Denmark. I think what's really interesting is of all the countries in the world, there is only Denmark which is actually a net exporter of sperm. So within the countries such as here in the UK, there's a major shortage of sperm from British donors. So therefore there's requirements to have overseas donors. And we're within the EU and we supply the UK, Ireland and the rest of Europe.
So the kind of donors that people are going to have access to, are they predominantly from Nordic countries?
They're predominantly from Denmark, but of course within Denmark you may have different race, creeds, you may have people from Poland, Germany, so it's whoever residents in Denmark. We also have a sperm bank in the United States where clients or patients, if they wish to choose, can choose from the United States as well as from the Danish side. Sperm will then be transferred to Denmark and then into the UK. So we have a wide variety. They call it phenotypes, but I suppose the best way of saying it is that we have a lot of different looks, a lot of different colours, a lot of different specifications. So we've got a very broad choice, because when you're looking for donor sperm, you not only are looking for maybe things such as intellect and build, and what you want something that looks pretty similar to you or to your family, to have those same characteristics. And because we are the largest donor bank, we have the largest selection of donors. So you can then choose the closest characteristics to yourself or what you require for your child, if that makes sense.
Okay, so going through the process of choosing a donor, just talk to me a bit about reserving the donor sperm, how that works.
So the process would be, if I take it for a patient using an IVF clinic, or they need fertility treatment in the UK, it could be single women, it could be lesbian couples. So you've got to need the sperm. Now, so 35 to 40% of those who have a fertility problem in a heterosexual relationship, it's a male problem. So therefore they need donor sperm. So you need to choose a donor. If there's a lack of donor sperm in the UK, which means there's a waiting list or it might take a lot of time, you can then look at a donor bank, which Cryos has a donor bank. So you go onto the donor search and you go through a process of selecting your donor. So you select them on. The most important thing with the United Kingdom, I suppose, is you need to select somebody who is compatible with the regulations in the UK. So they have to meet certain criteria to be able to be used in the UK. So as soon as you click on UK and UK standard, you'll have a selection. I think today I looked, you have about 160 donors you can choose from. So you know then that they meet the UK regulatory, and that's regulated by the HFEA. When you go to choose then, you can choose on eye colour, height, weight. You can see we have something called an extended profile. So we have two sets of donors. We have a basic profile and an extended. In the extended, you get a picture of them when they were a baby. There's a message from them. We do psychometric testing. So there's a lot more information for the extended profiles. But there is an associated cost with that as well. So it's a little bit more expensive.
And as far as then ordering, I mean, is it a process of you look, you can have some dialogue with you, but you can literally look and order online. You can do this from the comfort of your own home.
I think what's really nice is that if you say you go to your IVF clinic and they say, well, actually, you need donor sperm, the selection of that donor might take you and your partner, or if it's a single woman, it might take a couple of days, because you want to spend a lot of time on this. So the great thing is it's a free site. We ask people to log in, so you give in login details, but there'll never be a charge for actually accessing the donor bank. And then you can sit with the screen in front of you on the UK donors. And as I say, you have about 160. You can filter them on age, on weight, height. So you filter them down, and you may have a selection of 6 or 7 donors. And then you can go through in detail. So it gives you the choice of doing something which is really, really important to you, but you've got time to do it in the comfort of your own home or wherever you want to do it, and then go back to your clinic, if you're being treated under a clinic, to say, this is the choice I've made, this is a sperm donor I would like. Now, what is great in the UK is that the clinics will help you. So they will tell you, depending on what type of treatment, you may need a different motility. It sounds a bit complicated, and on the donor site, it will say MOT. And all that means is that in certain you'll have motility 5, 10, or 20. It means you've got 20 million motile sperm, sounds a lot, per mil. Now, you need higher motilities for different types of treatment. So the clinics will help with that side, as in what motility you need. But when it comes to actually choosing the donor, you can then sit and choose your own donor.
I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're having to use a donor sperm, it's probably because there's male fertility issues. And so surely you're going to want the highest, the best of everything when you're picking a donor. Or is that not, isn't that straightforward?
It is, and it is really interesting, because from my point of view, I just want somebody I want to buy sperm, which is great quality, which it is, but I want to buy the motility which meets their need and doesn't. So you can buy motility 50, which sounds absolutely fantastic, and it is, but you might be having something called ICSI, which is where they inject one sperm into the egg. So you don't need 50 million. You just, so for that, so what I try to do, and what the clinics try to do, is select the correct sperm and the correct motility for the treatment of the patient or the client. So if you have an ICSI, you can have a motility 5 is wonderful, and it's a lot less expensive. If you're having IVF, you may need motility 20. You shouldn't ever need above MOT or motility 20.
But I'm confused as to why you'd have ICSI if you're using a donor.
Now, and my view, coming from a UK clinic, is why would you, when you're getting this high quality sperm, do ICSI?
Right.
I used to manage clinics in the UK. One of my previous clinics, I managed for 9 years in the UK, and I was the HFEA person responsible. They used all their donor sperm from ICSI. This is a historical thing, because the donor sperm in the UK is such poor quality, it has been, that they had to use it for ICSI. And right. Because they kept doing it, they're continuing to do it. So there will be certain cases where they do use donor sperm for ICSI. Do you need to use Cryos donor sperm for it? Absolutely not.
Right.
But some of the clinics will be doing that.
Okay.
Also, some of the clinics may have fantastic results with ICSI. Okay. So even though you need donor sperm, 1, they're getting great results with ICSI 2. So they're going to use whatever sperm it is for ICSI. So even if it's the husband, partner, or has great sperm, they're still doing ICSI. So it's very interesting.
It is really interesting. And obviously it can be quite overwhelming to get your head around the fact that this is the route you're going to take. And there's conversations and support available. I know you've got Facebook groups as well, and you've got your blog posts of people talking about their decision, whether it's a same-sex couple or it's a solo mum.
Yep.
You've got a lot of information and advice available for people, haven't you?
We have. So you've got it online. You've got, as you say, the Facebook. For me, the best is that we have within my head office in Denmark, in Aarhus, we have a set of, I'm not sure, I think it's probably 3 who now deal with the UK. And for me, what I would do I would email Cryos in Aarhus and then speak to them on the phone if I need to, because the actual customer service there is fantastic. So I've got no issues if I'm dealing with a clinic or with a patient or client in the UK. I will give them the email address and phone number of the direct of the UK customer services, because they do the orders every day. They're doing hundreds of orders every few weeks, and they know exactly how it works, and they can really help. So if anyone's having an issue, I would say contact them directly. They'll contact us directly.
Okay. If you've just joined us, you're watching, I should say, it's Natalie from the Fertility Podcast in audio mode. You're watching the Ultimate Fertility Guide, where we try to connect you with experts who can help you make your next step. And we're talking to Dorian Ransome from Cryos International. So if you're trying to get your head around using a sperm donor and want to know about the different sperm banks that you have access to, Dorian is answering your questions. Dorian, I want to know as well about the clinics that work with you, in that if someone's listening and they're like, okay, I'm going to go and ask my clinic, can they expect that they'll just be able to then have access to your sperm bank, or is it something that they'd have to do separately from their clinic? Because you need to do it through your clinic for the legalities behind using donor sperm, don't you?
Now, if you want to use donor sperm and you're a client, you have a fertility issue, single woman, same-sex couple, or you're going to an IVF clinic, you need to go to the clinic, and you may be having IUI, which is intrauterine insemination, or you might be having IVF. I do apologise, I can't. Well, that's it. We're done.
Okay.
So you need to go to a clinic. Now, there's two ways of doing this. You can actually go to your clinic and they'll say you need donor sperm, or you may be aware, and they may suggest a sperm bank. But they may suggest a sperm bank that they're connected to. They may even say, well, we have sperm, but are you okay waiting 2 or 3 months? Because there may be a waiting list. However, there's absolutely no issue with you going and researching donors online and going back to your clinic with your donor, as long as that donor meets the UK standards. So you can actually go and choose your donor. On the other hand, you could phone Cryos if you wished and say, which clinics do you work with? Although we work with probably 90-95% of the clinics in the UK, you may say live in the Midlands or the North of England. So you might say, well, actually, who are you working with there? And we will recommend a clinic. So if you're already seeing a clinic and you're under treatment, you can actually take the donor to them. If you're thinking of going into treatment, we can suggest clinics that use Cryos if you find a donor that you really like. So you can do it one of either of those ways.
Okay. Now, I want to bring in some of the questions that we've had, because the whole point of what these conversations are about is to enable you as a patient to voice any concerns, and I can pass them on. Caroline says, what information do I get about the donor? How do we know if they are healthy?
Okay. So we talk about healthy. All the donors will have testing. So they will all have Hep A, Hep B, HIV. So they'll have a full raft of tests. What they'll also have, they'll be tested for the most frequent genetic conditions as well. So what I think is great about using a Danish bank is that we will test for 42 of the most common genetic conditions. Any donor found with one of those conditions cannot be put on our donor base. Okay. So we'll remove them straight away. We have all got recessive conditions. So me and you, Natalie, all of us sat here had some type of recessive. However, there are 42 of them, which are probably the most prevalent and have the most effect on your development and your life, and can be life-threatening in some ways. So we remove them straight away. You've got all your other testing. So as I say, you've got your things like HIV, so that you've got all your blood tests, they'll all be done. We also do psychometric testing. We also do emotional intelligence testing. So we make sure that the sperm providers the highest quality and that everybody's tested. Going past that, we talk about healthy. There's things about non-smoking, of course. We don't like those people who have high alcohol intake. I mean, of course, these things are based on trust to a certain extent. So try to get the best donors for that donor side. Does that answer your question, I think, Natalie?
Yeah, and I'm going to link another question into that from Sarah, who says about how she's talking about becoming a solo mom and interested in the selection process and what she can search for. Now, we did talk about this a bit earlier, Sarah. You talked about kind of height and, I suppose, eye colour, hair colour. We're talking about Denmark, so we can imagine a certain type, a Viking. But what else? What else can people search on? You just mentioned before about the intellect.
Yeah, and what's nice, I mean, I suppose one of the nice things you can search on is what are they going to look like?
So are they baby pictures, or they're not current pictures?
Well, we have baby pictures, and we're looking at extending that to have adult pictures as well.
Okay.
Because I mean, a baby looks like a baby, and they can look very beautiful, but it doesn't really reflect what you're going to look like when you get on. So we're going to have hopefully move to that, the adult pictures, which I think would be fantastic. There are messages on there, so also to get a feel of the person, to get a feel of the donor. So we have a personalised messages and video recordings. So we're trying to give that the fullest picture we can of the individual that you're going to use for a donor. So we're adding to that all the time.
And Wendy's asked, what kind of time scales can we expect? You've mentioned before that there's no waiting list, is that right?
There's absolutely no waiting list. The time scale is really dependent on your treatment. It's not dependent on the donor's sperm. So if you are going into treatment and say you're starting your treatment in 2 weeks' time, as long as you're in communication with your clinic, if you're going to a clinic, as long as you're in communication with that clinic, the sperm can be there within 4 or 5 days. What you'll find is most of the clinics would like it because they know what the treatment schedule is. They'd like it before, of course, the start of treatment. But there's no issues on delivery and there's no issues on waiting lists.
Okay, thank you. Jane and Phil have said, can you use the same donor more than once?
Now, yes, you can. It's called a reservation. You can actually reserve sperm.
Right.
So you can use a donor more than once. You can pay for a reservation. So, of course, if you pick this donor who matches the criteria you want, you think fits everything, and you then get pregnant, maybe 2-3 years, it could be 5-10 years later, you may want a sibling. So what we do is we give them the opportunity to reserve the sperm. But in the UK, it's not only reserving the sperm, you're reserving that pregnancy. And if you want me to just come on to talk a little bit about family quota and the 10 family limit and how that fits.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, because one of the reasons is that if you reserve, say we have a donor in Denmark, and that donor has 3 pregnancies with women in the UK, they can only have a maximum of 10 families. So 10, that doesn't mean 10 children, but 10 families within the UK, and that's what the regulation is. So what we do is, as soon as you order from the United Kingdom, as soon as that order is made, we tick that as pregnant. So even though you're not pregnant at the moment, that slot is pregnant, and therefore we will only tick off 10 slots for each donor in the UK. So you can reserve maybe 2 or 3 of those slots if you wish, or 4 slots. So you can reserve them. It means they can't be taken up. Of course, you pay a fee to make sure they're reserved. But it just gives you sort of peace of mind that if I want a sibling, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, that sperm's there. But as I say, in the UK, it's 10 families. In other countries, which is really interesting, it's different numbers. Okay. So you may have 10 families here, 14 somewhere, and it's not based on the population size. So there's no real rationale in Europe why we have the number.
Okay. That's fascinating stuff. And if anybody is watching thinking that they might want to become a donor, obviously they need to be based in Denmark, do they?
Well, for Cryos, our donor banks are as I say, are in Denmark and in the States. So
they could be international.
But the thing is, if you want to be a donor in the UK, and I work for Cryos, and I would love everyone to, because it is the largest bank, we've got the biggest selection. It is fantastic. But if you want to be a donor in the UK, there are clinics in the UK who really need you. So if you do want to be a donor in the UK, I would say go to your clinic and see if you can donate there, because it is a fantastic thing you're doing. So there are clinics throughout the UK where you could actually donate.
Great stuff. Thank you, Dorian. Been really interesting.
Thank you very much, Natalie.